My name's Justin Watson. I've been kind of the lone picketer down at City Hall since the 1st of December. I'm out there supporting the safety forces for the city of Canton, both on the police and fire side. I've faced some opposition from the mayor and his staff. I mean, the mayor came out the one day, we had a nice heated discussion. I've had lots of positive feedback from the firefighters, police officers, citizens have came up and talked. I have had some negative feedback as well, but you'll have that. I think, it's kind of helped out. I know that, a lot of people think that, doing what I'm doing, just one person isn't really doing anything, but you'd be surprised how much it gets the word out about things and, makes people, makes them think when they see the sign and they start to think and then they discuss it, at dinner or, out with friends or whatever. So it does kind of get the word out. I mean, I've contacted politicians and stuff like that. I think having that weighing on some of the city officials' minds kind of gets them to do a little jump start and maybe want to negotiate things a little better. So I think I've made a little bit of an impact, or at least I hope I have. Mainly I hope that I've kind of, set the bar and, showed, people my age and younger that, we do have rights and you should use them, and that, if something you don't agree with, I mean, you can either sit at home and complain about it all you want, or you can actually get out there and do something. And by getting out there and doing something, you don't have to necessarily do something negative. You can do something positive. Stop and talk with people on the street, and let them know what's going on. So.
Talk a little bit about those effects, just from picketing and your work with social networks, both with the unions and just being on Facebook and other online social networks. What has that caused?
It's actually rallied a lot of support. With talking with the fire union, I mean, they were kind of all touched by my story. The firefighters had been driving by and, waving and, thanking me and such. I mean, they actually went out and purchased the sweatshirt they gave me for their picket. That came out of the firefighters' pockets. I mean, it wasn't paid for like by the department or anything like that. So, and with Facebook, I mean, I've been able to join a couple of the different support groups out there, kind of get my message out, and get some of the facts out, because a lot of people were getting, hearsay and stuff like that, and I was trying to clear up some of those facts for the people. So I mean, it's benefited a lot having those outlets to communicate with, so that people can get the correct facts and can get the message out and know what's going on, know when things are going on. One thing is, I've talked to a lot of people. A lot of people in the city of Canton didn't know that we had weekly council meetings. And even if they knew that we had weekly council meetings, they had no clue where they were. So I was happy that I was able to clear that up with people. A lot of people didn't think that you were allowed to go and protest in front of City Hall. They thought I was going to get in trouble. And I'm like, no, you're within your rights to do that on public property. So I mean, it's kind of been educational for people in some aspects as well. So.
You mentioned young people. Is that where a lot of the misconceptions lie? How important is it to get people your age and younger involved and just educated about these civic processes?
I think that's a major thing. I think there's a lot of misconceptions with people my age and younger. I think that a lot of them kind of get a slanted view of police officers and firefighters. Police officers especially, they have this, due to, media and, movies and video games and music videos and music and such, they get this slanted view that police officers are all shady, underhanded, out to, like, that they're out to like cause ending of all fun, and that's their main goal in life, and that's not the case at all. They're doing their job. Their job is to uphold the laws. So therefore, they're just doing their job. They're not out to hurt anyone. They're not out to cheat anyone out of anything. So a lot of people have a slant on that, and they think They think mainly they think politicians don't listen, which is, I mean, yeah, you're gonna get some. There's a few bad apples in every bunch, but most of the politicians that I've talked to have called me back, and we've had lengthy conversations. And I mean, you know, like the former mayor, Janet Creighton, she talked to me on the phone for at least an hour, and then the day of the fire picket, she came down and made a point to stop and see me and talk to me personally. So, I mean, that just goes to show that, you know, they're not really as shady as a lot of people think they are and get painted to be. I think that maybe on the education level, in schools, when they're talking about government, maybe they should go into it a little bit more in depth, and that, you know, explain to them how it works on the city level. I mean, they all talk about, you know, the major branches of the federal level, but they really don't get into it too much with what actually impacts your community. So a lot of people don't understand things like that.
And how old are you?
I'm 23.
You're 23. Now, talk a little bit about the mood of these politicians when they were speaking with you. You said they were, you know, that they gave you a call back and things like that. Were they talking down to you at all? Were they civil?
No, everyone except for Mayor Healy and his, I believe it's considered communications director, I think is the term that they use. Pretty much a PR guy. Those are the only two that have been kind of condescending and negative with me. Other than that, all the members of council that I've spoken with, all of them have been very positive, very supportive of what I'm doing. They're actually very excited to hear that someone my age is, you know, taking a stance and trying to attempt to do anything that crosses kind of the civil political boundary lines. So they've all been really supportive and really, you know, curious as to, you know, why I'm doing this. So I don't know. It's been a lot of positive feedback from them.
In what way was Mayor Healy and his communications director condescending?
Well, when
you mentioned sort of a debate outside of City
Yes.
Hall. Was that part of it?
Yes. When I met with Mayor Healy, he came out and started spitting figures at me, and, you know, asking me what I should do. And then, you know, he asked me, well, when he first came out, he asked me, he said, well, which department do you work for? I said, neither. He said, you're lying. I said, no. And then we talked a little bit more about the figures, and he kept inviting me up to his office, which I explained to him. As the only person on the street corner, I was not going to leave my position to go upstairs. That's what he wants. He wants me off the street corner so people don't see me. And then he asked me if I had anyone in my family that worked for the city, and I said no. And he said, you're a liar. And I said, no, I'm not. So the fact that he's going to call a tax-paying citizen a liar kind of took me back a little bit. But, you know, you'll have that. And then when I met with Adam Herman, the day of the fire picket, the informational picket, he tried to kind of duck out the back, and some of the firefighters stopped him and was talking to him. And
Adam Herman is the communications
Yes,
director.
the communications director. He looked at me, you know, and they were talking or whatever, and I was making some points. And he introduced himself to me, and I introduced myself to him. He said, oh, you're that Watson guy, which then one of the firefighters cut him off right there and said, no, that's Mr. Justin Watson. He couldn't even be personal with me, knowing that he knew who I was and knew what my name was. I kind of took that as a little a jab there, being pretty disrespectful, which, you know, I've been respectful the whole time. I mean, I've maybe made some off-color nicknames for the mayor, but other than that, I mean, when I talked with him, I was respectful. Respect's one of my big things. You know, you don't just kind of come off that way especially when you introduce yourself to someone. So.
And you mentioned figures. You were talking about the money.
The money, yes. He kept spitting out all these dollar amounts and this, that, and the other, and
that the city could use to.
Yeah, and I you know, explained to him, you know, out in front of City Hall, there's a street light that the sensor is broke on, and the light's on, you know, all day, you know, 24 hours a day for however long that sensor's been broke. And I pointed that out to him. I said, well, if you got that sensor fixed, that would save a little bit of money. And, you know, that was a couple weeks, that was on the 1st of December, and it's now almost January 1st, and that light's still not fixed.